Too often does power breed corruption. We see it time and time again in different forms of media. Someone is put into an influential position, and their deepest, darkest desires come to light. In fact, in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, there are several quests and plotlines that involve this cliché. Sometimes these NPCs are from factions or cults where twisted and darker intentions were almost a given. Take for example Mankar Cameron's promise of paradise. The Mythic Dawn agents are promised a slice of heaven, but in return they receive a pocket of hell. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the guard captains. Everyone knows of Ulrich Leland, the main focal point for the quests, corruption, and conscience. In some ways, the antithesis of Robin Hood. He took from the locals, both lower and common class, in order to send riches to his family. In today's video, I wanted to go over another corrupt guard captain, Audens Avidius. He's the focus of the quest, Imperial Corruption. First, I'll play through the mission, listen to all of the dialogue, then I'll try and extract as much lore as I can from it. As per usual, the facts and information provided are brought to you by the game itself and the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. Imperial Corruption starts off in, you guessed it, the Imperial City. You technically don't even really have to speak with the captain, Audens Avidius, to learn that he's a crooked watchman. However, interacting with him, he doesn't really come off as a stand-up guy. As we'll come to learn later, he's a big fan of the 5-finger discount. Honestly, this is more of a low-key quest. It can come up in general discussions or rumors with other NPCs, but from my own personal experience, it's best to hear about it from the source. Chatting with those who have been affected, either the Orc, Laronk Gro Glurzog, or the Red Guard, Rustlin, you'll get the ball rolling.
Hey stranger, can you spare a few coins? I've just been shaken down by that bastard watchman, and he took my last septum.
I don't know his name, but I'd recognize him if I saw him again.
The bastard took every coin I had with me.
Laronk and I were shopping at Jensen's when he accused us of stealing. Even Jensen said we were innocent, but he didn't care.
We had to pay the fine, or he was going to march us off to jail.
He's shaken down most of the shopkeepers in the market district. They're all too afraid of him to do anything.
Jensen wouldn't even talk about it. Someone ought to do something about him.
From here, the quest directs the player over to Jensen at Jensen's Good as New merchandise. Technically, at this point, you don't even really know which watchman shook down the men, as I've jumped the gun a bit there. Hopefully that's a detail that Jensen can offer to the player though. If your disposition is lower than 70, she won't give you any information. This is where the first of many skill checks comes into play. Jensen can either be bribed, charmed, or persuaded to get her disposition high enough. I remember the first time I did this quest, I bribed and boosted her disposition with everything I had, and it still wasn't enough. People were wondering why I didn't just do the persuasion minigame. At the time, I had no clue how it worked, and even though I now have some sort of concept, it still takes forever, at least for me. I'll get into the persuasion minigame shortly, but for now, I tossed some chump change her way and got the answer out of her.
I guess I can trust you. It's that bastard Audens Avidius. He's in here every month taking my wares without paying for them. What can I do? He's a captain of the Imperial Watch. Only another watch captain can arrest him. Fat chance of that happening.
As the quest marker disappears, it's essentially up to the player to locate a captain. However, if you were to bring this up to one of the lesser guards, you're ultimately directed to Hieronymus Lex. I've always found it easiest to track down Lex anyways, as the waterfront is a pretty straightforward space. Running around for a bit in search of the Thieves Guild Bane, I finally caught up with the man himself. Chatting with him, he lets his obsession with the Grey Fox get in the way, and essentially says, tell it to someone who cares. He brings up Idius Hain and sends you off. Personally, the first time I ever did this quest was the first time I ever encountered Hain. He's a bit of a nobody captain, but does get his time in the limelight through this quest. His main patrol sectors are the Talos Plaza district and the Elven Gardens.
Can I help you, citizen? Why should I trust your word? You'll have to do better than this to persuade me to take action against one of the other watch captains.
It seems like another skill check is in order. This time I worked on the persuasion minigame, but eventually just threw some money his way. Honestly, a small charm spell or an enchanted gear piece are probably the fastest ways of raising someone's disposition. However, if you are insistent on spinning the wheel, I read a post on Reddit explaining the best way to do it. Essentially, if the smallest slice of the pie is on a negative reaction, you press it. If it's on one of the positive reactions, you press the other positive. From there, you're set up to gain a few disposition points. Somehow, this has always worked for me. If there's a better way to do it, please let me know, as I'd love to crack the code here. Obviously, the minigame gets easier the higher your speechcraft skill is. When you're successful with it, it could be a lot of fun. And honestly, at times, I don't even want to get pulled away from it. But subjectively speaking, I think a charm spell is just better overall.
These are very serious charges. If you can get 2 witnesses to testify against Audens Avidius, I'll arrest him. Otherwise, I can't help you.
It's time for 2 more speechcraft skill checks. Neither Ruslan nor Laurent will want to testify for fear of their own safety, which honestly makes sense. You can try with Jensine, but no matter what, she won't budge. Charming, bribing, persuading, you gotta do what you gotta do here. Both men need to get brought up to a disposition of 70.
This may be the stupidest thing I've ever done, but I'll testify against Audens Avidius.
I suppose someone has to stand up to him.
You've convinced me. If I don't stand up to him, who will? Just hope I'm not committing suicide.
After both men have agreed to go on record, the next part of this quest is a little confusing. The quest marker points to Avidius, but nothing happens. The journal says that you need to make sure the 2 men testify in the morning. Waiting around Hain, tracking his movements and shadowing him closely, I never saw either victim meet up with him.
I have 2 witnesses willing to testify against Audens Avidius. I'll get a warrant and arrest him.
However, as pointed out by the UESP, that's what makes this section of the quest rather effortless. You can technically embark on a whole new adventure, and the quest would still get completed. As for this grand arrest, I ended up missing it entirely in the remake, so I went back in with the original.
What is it, Audens Avidius? You are under arrest for extortion and petty theft. Surrender peacefully and keep what little dignity you have left. I'm surprised, Avidius. I didn't think even you would stoop to arresting a fellow captain. Only those who break the law. I'll take my chances in prison rather than fight you. Someday, I'll get out, and the weasel that turned me in will pay.
Some threats are made, Hain escorts Audens away, and you're kind of left there like this. Honestly, I've always been a little disappointed in this quest's ending. It's rather abrupt, and there isn't much of a closing with Jensine, Avidius, or Laurent. According to the UESP, Ruslan does say thank you and that he hopes Audens is locked away for a long time, but that was dialogue that never got brought up for me in the remaster. Jensine and Hain sweep everything under the carpet, and Laurent just sort of repeats the same dialogue. He simply says that he doesn't trust the watch. In terms of a reward, all you really get are a fame point and some disposition increases with the parties involved. Even if you visit Avidius in jail, he just hits you with the Scooby-Doo special. He would have gotten away for it if it weren't for the meddling hero of Kabach. However, all of this gets made up for when the player hits level 5 and 10 days have passed since the arrest. According to the UESP, it doesn't matter where you are in Cyrodiil, or even the Deadlands. Audens escapes from jail, and Audens will find you. The former captain rushes you and pulls out a dagger.
First, I'll kill you. Then, I'll get Ruslan and Laurent. You'll all pay for what you did to me!
He yells threats at the player and targets everyone who was involved in his arrest. Given his lack of armor and his dinky weapon, he doesn't prove to be much of a challenge. Even those who just get a pass on the minimum requirements shouldn't have much of an issue at all. After his death, the player gets one final quest update, solidifying the official end of Imperial Corruption. On his corpse, he has a note called Ramblings of Audens Avidius. It reads, "I used to be somebody. I was a captain of the guard in the Imperial City until that flea-bitten hero decided to poke his nose in my business. I have a plan to get out of the Imperial prison. Apparently, there's a secret escape tunnel used by the royal family. When I get out, I'm going to settle the score with that hero. Then, I'll take care of those 2 snitches, Ruslan and Laurent. The sweetest of all will be Avidius Hain. I'll make him squeal first." Again, even after all of this, there unfortunately still aren't any reactions from the other parties. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the quest. There have been several quests covered on this channel where myself, as well as some commenters, have come to a certain conclusion. They have little to no implications on the game's lore, but are more so added in to show off specific features and mechanics of the game. Take for example, Paranoia with Glarthur. It's a really entertaining quest, and if it's your first time playing through it, it keeps you on your toes. However, regardless of Glarthur's claims and what you believe, the quest was likely added in to show off the new Radiant AI system. The way NPCs behave and interact with their environment is leagues different from Morrowind, and that quest displays it perfectly. I firmly believe that Imperial Corruption was added in simply to give some sort of sustenance to players who've built a personality-driven character. Very few quests require the player to persuade more than one NPC. Imperial Corruption has 4 of them that you need to smooth talk. Really, not much happens with this mission other than the player getting bounced around and raising dispositions. Other than Avidius attacking the player, there's no combat involved at all. I've always thought to myself, there aren't really many personality/speechcraft driven quests, but as it would turn out, this is probably the one that shines the brightest. Personally, I find the lack of conclusions with the parties involved to be a bit of a letdown. I don't need a reward, but little to no acknowledgement in the end makes the quest feel incomplete. Even with going back into the original game, I still wasn't able to get the dialogue out of Ruslan. Having that ending dialogue isn't necessarily so I can get affirmation, but it lets me know that the world around me has changed. It shows me that my actions have consequences, sometimes leading to a good outcome, and at other times, a bad one. In terms of lore, really there isn't much to go off of for Jensine, Ruslan, Laranc, or Idius. Carmalo Truin replaces Audens as the Watch Captain, but he also doesn't really do much for the rest of the game. As pointed out by the UESP, all 4 Watch Captains involved with this quest are included on the list of candidates for the Thieves Guilds taking care of Lex. Idius is at the top. He's loyal but not very bright. Underneath him is Carmalo. He's inexperienced but a second good choice. Third is Hieronymus Lex, who's a bit of a fanatic, and fourth is Audens. The description for Avidius is pretty telling. It says questionable morals, not recommended. It seems like his reputation precedes him, and word's gotten around that he's crooked. Yet, no one has bothered to do anything about it until the player stepped up. Again though, it was probably due to safety concerns and corruption runs deep within the system. Probably the most interesting part to all of this is Audens' note. While his threats are pretty juicy, the big thing I caught onto was his use of the escape tunnels. Avidius makes note of them and effectively uses them to escape prison. These are more than likely the same set of tunnels that the player uses in the beginning, but how he got access to them and how he made it through undetected is a bit of a mystery. As far as we know, the only escape route is through the player's original cell. Given that there's no Valen Dreth, assuming he's still alive for you, and the fact that he isn't even placed in the same cell the player was, it's hard to imagine how he could have begun his escape. Maybe there are multiple holding areas that connect to the sewers. While the player never gets to see them, I suppose it isn't 100% proven whether or not there are more than one. Although, Audens' note does say there is a secret escape tunnel, alluding to the presence of only one. For fun though, let's say he picked the lock to a cell, as he was probably able to sneak in a pick, walked over to the player's original holding area, and began his descent. The Imperial Subterrane and Sanctum houses Captain Japard Montrose, as well as a few other guards. He would have had to sneak past all of them, wandering around in the darkness, and then he'd have to navigate his way through the sewers, battling mud crabs, rats, and goblins. The average Joe might have some difficulty with that, but a trained watch captain could more than likely do it. He might have knowledge of the guards' movements, and maybe he packs a punch with his fists. Once he's topside, he can steal a dagger, something else he's proficient in, and move mountains in order to get to the player. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on Audens Avidius and Imperial Corruption down below. Until next time, keep on adventuring.